show today. We have in the house Dr. Eddie Okobi, who is the younger brother to Dr. Francis Okobi. We have about 5 musicians in that, the Okobis. So today we're going to be talking about coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus, which is ravaging the earth right now. So we are very grateful to have Dr. Eddie Okobi in the house to tell us more about this virus. So Dr. Eddie, you are welcome to the show, the David Adodo Show on African Radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, my co-host, Queen Hassan, how are you doing today, Queen? Thank you so very much for coming to me.
Thank you so much. You're welcome back to the show, and welcome back to America. We really miss you, and I hope you were able to. Of course, you can't bring nothing in because it's all because of what is going on that everybody knows around. And we're actually looking forward to you bringing a whole lot of goodies for us. But unfortunately, nobody is able to go out because of coronavirus, and well, it's a matter of time. Very soon everything is going to go over. Welcome to David Adodo Show, another edition of this program, and we're going to be, talking about coronavirus that is all over the world now. It's not leaving any country behind. I hope everybody is staying safe out there, and I think God will help us out of this problem that we find ourselves in. We can't do anything without God. Yeah. Welcome to David Adodo Show.
Thank you. Tunde, how are you doing today, Tunde?
I'm good, Mr. Adodo. Welcome back. And as you all can see out there, we're following the CDC guideline. We're maintaining the 6 feet apart. So we're not broadcasting from the studio today. We're broadcasting from our individual homes. So we're all keeping apart, trying to follow the CDC guideline not to spread coronavirus. Not to say that any one of us has it. None of us has it, but we're just following protocols. Make sure that we're all, we all remain safe. So once again, welcome
to Charles. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Mr. Dodo. Welcome back. I think I had the Queen saying something about goodies, and we are far apart. Yeah, the Queen, you gotta speak for yourself. You gotta put mine in the mail, man. I'm not gonna wait to see you. What do you think about that? If you have come back with some goodies, please put it in the mail, man. Because we don't know what we're gonna see.
Nobody's seen anybody. We're quarantining in our homes. That we should stay home for now.
That's a fact. Then for that reason, he has to send I don't know when I'm gonna see him. We don't know when this is gonna end, as we all know. 2-3 weeks from now, 1 month. We never know. But at least I'm glad we have a doctor in the house today, probably who will guide us through that. And I know before that, we will bring you guys updates. Where we stand, where the country stands by number. This is something that we've been doing for our listeners for the last couple of weeks that this has been in the air. So we will do that after the doctor introduces himself. So welcome back, David Adodo. I'm happy to be here today. We'll have a great show for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Eddie, how you doing, sir?
Yes, sir.
So today we're going to be talking about coronavirus, the COVID-19 that is ravaging the earth, and we are made to understand started from China. So what can you tell us about coronavirus? Because a lot of people don't even know much about this virus. Can you please enlighten us about this virus, please, Doctor?
So, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been following this show for a while, and it's worth watching. It's worth tuning into. So, straight to the question. Coronavirus is actually a virus. We have different types of things that causes diseases. Some are bacteria, and some are viruses. This COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus. Now, there are different types of viruses. Coronavirus is one. Coronavirus has components like all these viruses that causes SARS and MERS. They're all part of coronavirus. Now, this particular strain that is rampaging everywhere
is a new strain, and we really quite don't understand it fully. It was the first case was discovered sometime in November, November or December, I think November 17th, so in China, Wuhan, China. I think that's why they started calling it the Chinese. Initially, started calling it the Chinese virus, but according to WHO, because they don't want to stigmatize any tribe or race, they decided to, any country, so they decided to give it a new name called COVID. COVID actually means coronavirus infectious disease, and 19 actually was the year actually that it was actually discovered. So it's coronavirus, COVID infectious disease 19. That's actually what it is. It gives a lot of symptoms like normal flu. It's difficult to differentiate if it is normal flu or not. We may have heard so much about it, about the symptoms: fever, dizziness, tiredness. But the principal symptom that everybody's kind of scared about now is the respiratory symptoms that it causes. Dyspnea. Dyspnea means you can't breathe in well, you're short of breath. And it's really very terrible. It's scary to everybody. It's very scary. It doesn't know race. It doesn't know age. It has cut across children to adult, although it affects more people that are 65 and above. Why 65 and above? Because as from those ages, your organs begin to fail, especially those that have one or two underlying diseases, people that have previous respiratory disease or cardiac diseases before. So if you now add difficulty with breathing to a failing heart, you see you double the mortality, the risks for mortality or morbidity for that person. That's why they say, hey, we gotta be careful for those people that are 65 and above.
Okay, let me give Tunde a chance to ask some few questions himself.
Sure.
Yeah. So the question that I have with this coronavirus thing is that although we don't have any scientific proof right now, but they say that chloroquine, and this afternoon, not too long ago, the president did tweet that azithromycin, the combination of chloroquine and azithromycin, will be able to, effectively take care of this. I just want to put it out there that people should not go out and start, chloroquine is a prescribed medication. You can't get it anywhere. The doctor has to write it for you, and the milligram has to be written out for you. Don't go out there and start taking chloroquine at your leisure, willy-nilly, because chloroquine is an antibiotic. And then,
Dr. Eddie, what do you have to say about what Tunde is saying about the chloroquine and the other medication?
For any disease outbreak, any news, any tincture of news is good news to everybody. Be it chloroquine, be it azithromycin, it's good news. The only thing is that CDC, our local, national guideline, our national body that guides the prescriptions that we use in this country, have actually really approved it. The story about chloroquine is that somewhere in France and somewhere in Wuhan, China, the people that did benchmark, there's what they call clinical research. Clinical research is activities that we do to discover either drug or devices. They subjected this virus to different arrays of drugs, and they tried to look at which of these drugs affected the concentration of these viruses or the quantity of these viruses.
I was going with my question to find out do we have enough data, to support the presence of chloroquine and azithromycin being the remedy for this virus, That's where I was going to the question. Yes.
So it's very early, even though that is very early. It's great news because the data that they released was very encouraging enough for the science world to embrace it and say, hey, let's try it out on the greater population. So at the phases of clinical trial, but right now we're trying to try it out in so many people, so we could have a significant number of people to say, hey, it's a valid test. Yes, it works. But right now, it's just still looking at it from a distance.
Okay.
Although the Queen, what question do you have for Dr. Eddie? Because I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask Dr. Eddie questions that will be pertinent to everybody. The Queen.
Unmute yourself, Will.
I'm sorry. Doctor, so many things is going around on social media these days about this coronavirus that there's other way you can attack it. Some doctors even came out to say that if you contact coronavirus, it's likely not to kill you because, when you attack it in a very positive way, it's gone. That the news is not even coming up to say, okay, these are the survivors of coronavirus. Then, in other aspects, where like some of these doctors are coming up to say, okay, there are own way that we can attack it before it even gets us. There's this thing they do in Africa in those days. I was part of it because of my generation. That when you feeling funny, or maybe twice a day, even if you're not feeling funny, you can have your hot water boiled 100 degrees and cover yourself up with it. Does it work? Can we, that it's going to kill all the virus, that might have gotten into you? Another doctor even came out to say if you can do sauna for, maybe in the morning and in the night, it helps. Can you expatiate on that so that we don't misconcept a wrong information?
Oh, that's a very beautiful question. Now, in medical practice, there's what we call anecdotal reasons for doing something, or anecdotal evidences, and there's what they call evidence-based practice. Right? Evidence-based practice is actually what we're trying to find out, what we're trying to do with chloroquine, looking at chloroquine and azithromycin and all these other antivirals. So evidence means we've tried it, it's worked. Anecdotal means, oh, they said it worked here, it could work there, it may work there. As long as these anecdotals are not, don't threaten your life, you're not, taking baths with hot water is not life-threatening. We take our baths with hot water. And it's also known that viruses don't survive beyond some certain limit of temperature. Their viruses are made up of protein. So if you heat them up, they're going to denature. That's the anecdotal evidences, but they have not been tried clinically to say, okay, this is the data. So how many people have actually put on cold water or hot water or whatever, and they actually eliminated coronavirus? Remember that this is actually a new virus, it's COVID-19. So when we say coronavirus, a class of virus, this particular strain is new, and they're still studying it. That's what. So we're relying on data from China, data from these European countries, and this data that we're generating from what is afflicting us presently. So nobody can actually say if these things work or if they don't work. And we don't want to prescribe them or actually also denounce them. Some of them may, and some of them may not. But some practices like sipping. Yes, sir.
So, doctor, if I use my aboliki, I will not feel good.
No.
What aboliki actually does, it contains menthol actually that clears your airway. It makes you to breathe better. That's actually what it does.
Charles.
It doesn't kill the virus.
Charles, don't quote me.
I think some, my fellow hosts already, some of them have asked the questions that I want to. But at the same time, I know that, after we go around in the studio, I know that our listeners, please get your questions ready. We'll probably be coming to you. I know that the Queen will probably announce the number later on for you guys to call in. But my question to you is this, Doc. We've had so many, everybody's talking about what you have to do so you don't contact that, or, any prevention, precautions and all that. I think that's everywhere by now. I think everybody must have had this song so many times now that, you can't even find sanitizers in the store and things like that. Everybody stopped shaking hands. And something that I have not really heard from the professional side or from the medical side is, please try to keep one or two things or one of this medicine or that medicine at home in case you get that. Okay, I'm probably from what you're saying right now, it's a new virus. Nobody knows. So probably that's why the advice is not coming yet. But my other question is, can somebody get this twice I mean,
Okay.
is there any proof out there
Yeah.
that suggested
So
that
it's called
if you get that
reinfection.
and after how many months you can get it again?
Yeah. So it's called reinfection.
Right.
If so we in medicine we sometimes we look at the trends in the past and say, okay, what happened in the past? We use it to judge. If you look at the other viruses in this class of virus, the MERS and the SARS, you notice that when you get them before, you can also get them again. But there have been isolated reported cases of this COVID-19 that has had a reinfection, but they are isolated cases. The natural thing is that when a virus comes into my body builds immunity, builds some cells, the memory cells, the T lymphocytes and the memory cells and other immune system to fight it. Now, after the virus dies, those immune cells still remain intact and they are reactivated when another virus comes in.
Very
But
correct.
the escape statement that I will make now is this virus is new. We don't know if this virus is able to, if the body is able to develop this type of immune response to this particular virus. So nobody really knows until after a while we'll now study. There's been reported cases that we're trying to develop vaccines. The medical field or the scientists are trying to develop vaccines based on the theory of this immunity. So they'll bring in the virus and the body will develop cells that will attack this virus, right? Then we'll extract those cells that the body develops. Those cells are now the vaccines, in quotes. That's one type of vaccine. The other types of vaccines, but we've not been able to actually fully say if the body can mount adequate immune response that will prevent a reoccurrence. So we'll get these details in a matter of months because all hands on deck. People are analyzing a lot of data, a lot of body fluids, and so many people are putting their lives online for this particular to get put their names on the book and also help mankind in this particular outbreak.
Yeah.
So my advice is people should just be safe. Just be safe. Listen to the guidelines. Go to the CDC website. Ask questions. And if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Just stay behind. Stay at home.
Dr. Eddie.
That's
Yes,
what
sir.
we're doing now.
Yeah. I'm very concerned about Africa because we are all Africans, and because we are from there, we are concerned about what is going on right there. Our people are not that they don't have access to sanitizers and masks. So what other ways do you think we Africans Africans in Africa right now, what other method can they use to try to limit the spread of this virus? Because when the population is so huge, like in Nigeria, for example, people are close to each other. So what advice do you have for my people back home, how they can limit the spread of this virus? After this question, Tunde can ask you the same question. The Queen can ask you, and Charles. So I want everybody to be able to ask you questions that will be beneficial to our people back home and our people here also.
Right. I'm a Christian, and in the book of Isaiah 26:20, if I quoted it rightly, yeah. Let me just read it here on my phone, and it says, "Go home, my people, and lock your doors. Hide yourself for a little while until the Lord's anger has passed." That's quarantine in the Bible. It's specified there. The first thing you have to do is to quarantine yourself. And that's what every medical guideline has been saying. And it works everywhere. Africa, Europe, America, works everywhere. Stay away from crowd. The reason why we say stay 6 feet away, because someone asked me yesterday, why you guys saying we should stay 6 feet away from other persons? When I talk, as I'm talking or as I'm sneezing, the particles, the droplets, the particles from my nostrils and my mouth, they travel at least 6 to 10 feet before they settle, right?
Yes.
So you have to stay away. That's 6 to 10 feet. And they travel at a rate of about 100 miles per hour. So this little speed that we call, it travels so fast. So if you could stay away, that's the first thing. Second thing is wash your hand wash your hand. If you ask me the third thing, wash your hand. If you ask me the fourth thing, wash your hand. Now, the reason is that the hand is one of the most mobile components of the human body. You touch your face, you touch the rail, you touch the handle, you touch the toilet, you shake someone, So if you can wash your hands as many times as possible, it will help a lot to reduce so many communicable diseases that we have.
Thank you.
Presently. Then other measures, let's follow the news and listen. Don't say, hey, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm this, I have faith. Faith can work while you're still keeping to normal guidelines. They say don't stay in a crowd of more than 50 people. Please don't do that. Just stay away. You could pray from your home. You could join. We're doing Skype conference right now, and it's effective and it's working.
Yes.
Tunde. Yeah.
My problem with the quarantine is not that I have an issue with it. I just hope that the maternity wards will be ready in 9 months, because when you quarantine,
I like that. I like it. So when they say social isolation,
exactly,
social distancing, I hope it also affects husband and wife, because there should be social distancing as well.
You see, Doc, that would be my next question. Okay, we're talking about quarantine people. So what about a family of 4, a wife and 2 or 3 kids? I mean, when you get into the house also, would there be everybody quarantine themselves in one corner? I mean,
hey, that's a very, very beautiful
because
question.
we all come down and we eat out of the same pot and cook and all that. So when people are home, what else can they do than, everybody running up and down, meeting itself at the step, and like you said, husband and wife, hey, no kissing, I guess. I mean, you saw on the side of your bed. I saw
nobody said you kiss your wife.
So how far can we go with this stay apart? Like, let's just do that one. How far can we go?
So let me attempt to answer it the best I can. I'll address it in 2 categories or 3 categories. First category are people that are 65 and above that don't have that have one organ failure or one underlying disease, right? They should just completely stay away. That's what the guideline says. Completely stay. Don't say, oh, my grandmom, oh, my granddaughter. No, just stay away. Find your somewhere, put yourself, and just stay away until it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. And the timeline that they were speculating, because it's all speculation, we really don't know, it's 14 days. And that's why you see a lot of state and local regulations are recommending 14 days of quarantine, 14 days, using the past. I said we studied the past to know what's going to happen in the future, right? But this disease is very new. So that's those categories. Another category is those that have symptoms. If you have symptoms, locate any COVID-19 center that are doing screening. The government of Maryland is doing a lot, and I'm very grateful to them. Just locate any of the centers and do your screening and meet your doctor, call them on the phone, and they're going to guide you through the necessary thing. Health.maryland.gov has a lot of guideline on what we should do when we have symptoms. So if you have symptoms, you have to stay away from your family. Really, this is serious stuff. This is really serious.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Okay, all right.
The last thing I want to say about that, the people that are in the family, is before you get home, wash your hand. Immediately you get home, wash your hand. No hugging. As much as possible, limit hugging, limit kissing, limit the normal practices that we have. And stay away apart. You're home.
Yeah.
Queen, go ahead.
Yes, Doctor, I actually want to take us back to Africa, because right here is an advanced country that people can easily stay away from themselves. We live in a community in Africa, and you discover that the kind of markets we have in Africa is different from what we have here. And how do we do that? When you're saying, okay, 6 feet away from each other, and you discover that even at the bus stop, you see crowd. You mix with people, the way they jump into buses and cars over there is different from here. The government of America is trying. So how would they do that to survive this coronavirus? And that's number one. Number two, Even here in America, we're saying, okay, stay away, no kissing, like you just said now, no kissing, make sure you wash your hands.
I did not say no kissing.
Limit the kissing.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
All right.
He's gonna get off this chair.
You started this, Charles. Okay, somebody. Okay, in a family of maybe 6, you discover that 3 of them are gone out. When they come in, they shower and they do all sorts of things. We're talking about the virus. It stays in someone's clothes or the metal or under your arm or your nose. Will that one work? In a family of 6 and 3 people goes out, you don't know where they've gone to. The people that are going to mate, you don't know whether they are carriers. So how can people, limit this? Even if you're saying, okay, the kids are home, are they very safe? Because one way or the other, the adults still goes out, especially the people in the medical field, they cannot go out. So how can we, contest this?
So it's a two-pronged question. They are very, very intelligent questions. The first one is, how do we cope in Africa given our peculiar circumstance? What I know is that if you tell people why they should keep to a particular standard, if you take your time to explain why they should do this, I think there are a lot of intelligent people in Africa, and we actually follow laws. So sensitization by the government, by a lot of stakeholders. Stakeholders, I mean the church, stakeholders, the community leaders, stakeholders, the politicians. Nobody should politicize it. If you go to the market and tell the market woman, ma'am, this is the reason why we say you should stay apart. There's a new virus in town and the virus does not know anybody. That woman is sensible enough to protect his family, his granddaughter, and everything. And I believe they should. The problem in Africa, one of the problems, it's inadequate sensitization. They just say, hey, keep 6 feet apart. Why? Why should I do that? And you don't give the guy enough reason and he doesn't do it. Another peculiar thing is poverty. There are risk factors for disease spread. In epidemiology, there are risk factors why disease spread faster. If you can take away poverty to a reasonable extent, then you can reduce many of the communicable diseases. But if the person that is struggling to eat, to get his food, to jump the bus, to get the last bus, you can't take away poverty from his plate. How are you going to tell him to not to go and fend for his family? But government, I'm happy these days that a lot of governments are embracing it and bringing a lot of economic policies to strengthen their nation. I was listening to the president of Ghana recently, and even South Africa, and how they were talking about Kenya also, and how they were talking about that the landlords should not charge for landlord fees within this period, and they're going to enforce it with the law. That's a measure to tell the woman, hey, there's something going on. Landlords are not going to charge you because we don't want you to go out to look for that money that you're going to use to pay for your house rent. So she's going to be at home, And this whole pandemic is changing the paradigm of how things work. Technology is taking over. People are beginning to ship goods to, family. The transportation system in the country, in various African countries, are beginning to improve. It wasn't the way it used to be before. Now there's FedEx and DHL, courier services in Africa. A lot of African countries are delivering all these services. Lagos State, for example, in Nigeria, where I come from, I know the courier services is very very developed. Not as developed as it is in America, but I mean they're doing very well. So these adapting to these new measures will help a lot. The last thing about how do we help those cities in Africa is that the government should not politicize it. This is real. I tell you, if I use Lagos, for example, the Lagos state government comes out and says, we don't want gathering of more than 50 people, they're going to comply. The market woman will comply because he's going to enforce it. The problem is, will the Lagos state government do that? But they have done it recently.
Yeah, from what you're saying, Doc, you're absolutely correct. I mean, the Queen, thanks for answering that question, because one thing about this is everything depends on how the government reacts.
Right.
Just like you said, if the governments understand what is at stake, and then they will know how to impose that on the people. like right now, like you said, because I'm following the news right as we speak. I know that now in the East, even in Edo, whatever, now they have banned burials, they have banned weddings, they've closed all the schools. Okay, they were talking about these financial issues about landlords also, people paying the tenant. If you go online now, the state by state has been announcing this. So if the problem is if they continue to do that, we're saying what about here we are? About a month ago this was like a joke. We all know that. But today, about 3 weeks ago in America, it was a joke. We all know that. The CDC, nobody was serious.
One other thing I also want to add is
the government is serious about it. The government is serious about it. The citizens are serious about it. So
one other thing I also want to add,
correct.
One other thing I also want to add is in epidemiology, as a study of diseases and how they spread and how they distribute, you find out that education also has a lot of role to play. An educated mind analyzes information better than an uneducated mind. An uneducated mind, I'm not saying an uneducated mind doesn't analyze things, but may doubt it. He will say, hey, it's a white man disease or something. A lot of myths that are going around. And it lies now on sensitization and the government to educate these people and say, this is actually not fake news. This is real. This is real.
Yeah, Queen, do you have anything to say?
Well, I don't really. I still have a lot to say, but I think we should go on break. What's the music we have to play for the first time? And when we come back, I'm going to put a little announcement on to talk about our sponsors and the number to call in. So, Mr. Charles, what music do we have?
Yeah, looking at if you guys remember last week, okay, if you guys, for example, last week when we talk about this is like a week ago on Saturday, we talked about the United States number. This is number by CDC. They update this every day. Last week I remember it was about 2,400 and something. 2,499. Today, so far, we're looking at about 24,000. But going back, all the global cases as of today is 303,000 plus. Okay? And deaths over 12,000. 12,964 to be exact. People that have already recovered, about 300 and something, is about 94,000 people recovered. So, this is not a joke. China continued to be the number one with over 81,000 cases. Followed by Italy with about 53,000 cases. Spain, 25. United States is now 24. And then Germany is 22. Iran is about 20,000. Will continue to go down and down and down. These things are going up every day, just like the doctor said. It's just spreading. So people have to be very, very careful and follow the government instructions.
Queen,
the number keep going. So,
Queen, can we go on break?
Yes.
Yes, we will continue when we come back. So we'll be back in 2 and 2 after the music. Guys, get your questions ready, and we'll be right back.
Well, you know that the Facebook is still streaming, so people can still.
I was actually.
Follow us on Facebook also.
Yeah, people can still hear us. People can still.
On.
Congo, nani adu fodie, ogwati kungu ma You're listening to African Voices Radio.
Now when you have come on, Monsieur Côté, c'est ma sang quand même. Poma, ah, when you have me poma, poma, ah, when you have me poma, ma chérie, lolo poma, ah, when you have me poma, Charles Toko. Georges Bailly, Albin Fédimon, ma chérie, elle lolo, le mouvement, le balcon très sincère.
Okay, welcome back. It's still David Adodo Show on Praise FM 106.1. We cannot go with that. We're still here, but we need to say a very big thank you to sponsors, Dave's Seafood and Poultry. We want to say thank you so much for sponsoring this program from the inception. We appreciate you so much. God bless you guys. Randallstown International Market, thank you so much. It's an African store where you can get all your grocery in African food. Heritage International Food is located on Liberty Road here in Baltimore. Thank you so much for sponsoring the program. Afrique International, please, we want to say a very big thank you to you. Afrique International is opening another branch in Bowie. We want to say thank you so much. And we have a brand new sponsor, Easy Rator, whatever the kind of home you want to buy, you can contact him. His number is 301-559-2873, and it's located in Upper Marlboro. But you can buy your home anywhere in America. He's here to help you out. Yeah, if you want to be part of this program by calling in, please give us a call on 443-380-2803. 443-380-2803. And if you are calling from America, please remember to add +1 before you calling. And if you want to be part of this program by sponsoring it, call us on 202-913-8659. 202-913-6859. We're expecting more people to sponsor this program. So
Tunde.
Hey.
Tunde.
I'm with you.
Yeah, do you have a question for the doctor? He's still here. He's ready for all the questions that we have today.
Yeah, I know. So for me, doctor, I see that concerning Africa, it's a different dynamic, but however, we must give kudos to what the governments have put in place so far. Africa, looking at the map, when John Hopkins puts up the map for the hotspots, Africa seems to still have the lowest the lowest number of people infected with coronavirus, despite the fact that we have a porous population and, you know how everything else goes. I think the humidity and the heat in that, part of the world also helps to suppress the virus.
We're not sure about that.
Well, that's a theory. That's a theory. I mean, it's a potential theory.
But we like that. We like that, though. Whether you prove it or not, we like that theory.
What he's saying is a theory.
Otherwise, looking at how porous Africa is and how unsanitary it can be over there, everybody will be dead by now, with the way this is going. But they've been able to curtail it to the barest minimum. Africa has the lowest number. The governments are doing the best that they can, to keep people apart and putting policies and things into effect. So it is now left for the citizenry. The government can do but so much. It is now left for the citizenry. You as an individual have to be responsible now and say, okay, this thing is out there. What can I do to protect myself, my family, and my children? Government can do but so much. Even here in the United States, I still see people going to pump gas without no gloves or nothing on their hands. The last person who pump the gas, you don't know what they have or what they left. Yeah. And then you pick the same pump and pump gas. With all these awareness in the United States, with all these things going about for COVID, coronavirus. So it depends now on the individual. The government can do but so much. But you have to take the responsibility on your own self and say, what can I do to help myself? Because we don't even know if chloroquine is going to work. We don't know if this is going to work. But what can I do to protect myself from getting to that point where I need medication? So kudos to the government of Africa. And they need the best they can do with how porous and how unsanitary the situation is over there compared to...
Tunde.
Yes.
Tunde, let's ask Doctor the question. Doctor, what is responsible for the low spread of that virus in Africa? Because Tunde just brought a topic about it being low. Why is it low in Africa? Is it because of the preventive measures people are taking, or because it is not just there yet? Can you tell us about that?
There are a couple of theories. They have not actually been proven, but there are possibilities until we do either a retrospective analysis, a retrospective study, or cross-sectional study, or a prospective study. That's when we can actually find out what is the reason why there's low incidence of these diseases in Africa. But one of them could be because of this heat. Normally, naturally, coronavirus don't do well in Africa. The other SARS and MERS, they really don't do well in hot temperatures.
Exactly.
But that's a theory. There was a study that came out from China recently trying to look at how this virus survives in various temperatures. And they found out that the peak prevalence of the virus is when the peak incidence or prevalence, depending on how you're looking at it, is when the temperature is between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. That's very cold, right? But in Africa, we don't have that much. That gave the first impression that, hey, this virus could be a cold season virus, right? But there were other counter studies that came out in America, in Johns Hopkins and other places that actually really disproved this and said, hey, you really cannot really say because we've seen incidences in Africa, so why is it there? And there are other reasons why they said you really cannot say until we studied this virus across all the weather pattern and say, okay, this is what happened in winter. This is the number of cases in winter. This is the number of cases in the spring. This is the number of cases in this period. That's when we'll now say, oh, probably there's a pattern. Then we'll begin to associate this pattern to the virus and say, oh, it spreads more. So let's give it a couple of months, perhaps years down the line. We should be able to identify the actual pattern. The other reason why the prevalence might be low in Africa could be because a lot of countries are beginning now to embrace it, to test it. Though Africa is doing very well, how well are they actually testing? How well is the government of Angola testing? How well is the government of Egypt doing these testings? Kudos to Africa. Their infectious disease response is very top-notch. I remember what we did in Ebola time. The various African countries came together under one umbrella and they tackled Ebola very, very strategically. And up to today,
approach to Ebola has remained a reference point to Western nations in Africa. So Africa is doing very well in terms of infectious disease. Other reasons why the prevalence may be low or the incidence may be low in Africa could be because Africa has a lower rate of migration. Remember that people migrate a lot, inter-country migrations. Between, if you calculate the number of flights that leaves China for the US and the number of flights that leave China for Africa, you see that they are not the same, right? So probably, I'm not saying the number of flights that leave Europe for the US and the number of flights that leave Europe for Africa, they're not quite the same. There's more volume of people moving and spreading this virus across these Western nations because they have better economy. They have financial power to travel. People are traveling, investing. Nike has its company in China. People are traveling up and down. And that's part of the reasons why you see these countries these days are instituting the no travel law, closing their borders to this travel to see if they could limit and contain the viruses within borders. Angola just recently announced a case, and they are trying to close their borders to migration. Because if you close your border to migration, the virus came from a particular country or are coming from a particular set of high prevalence rates. So you're going to limit the transmission rate to the areas that are not. So these are all theories. They are not proven. It could be possible that there's something about the black gene. It could be possible about melanin. It could be anything. But right now, we're still studying all these theories to find out what actually it is.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Doctor, just real quick,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question. Some folks said that it might be because of gluten diet. There's a difference between, like, for instance, it's so high in Italy because they eat a lot of pasta, they eat a lot of wheat, gluten products, whereas when you see in South Korea, they were able to kind of curb their reports of coronavirus because they don't eat as much gluten. Does gluten have anything to do with your white blood cells and your white blood count and make you a little bit more immune resistant, possibly?
Not really that I know of. There could be pockets of clinical trials here trying to associate gluten with immune response. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so there could be pockets of clinical trials here and there trying to associate gluten with immune response, but it's not widely known. It's not a widely known theory. It could be an isolated case here and there. That's all I could say.
Do we have anybody on the line? Any caller on the air?
You do have one caller, and he'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
I'm going to have to repeat his question because you can't hear us on the Skype feed. Caller,
Okay.
you're on the air.
Yes, sir. My name is Charlie Winstead. I would like to know, have anybody looked at the effects of the Ebola virus in Africa and all the other viruses that have went through our culture or people that has no effect on us? Have anybody looked at the DNA compared to the Western culture DNA?
So he was asking, is there a difference between the Ebola's DNA versus the DNA of the coronavirus? And has anybody looked into that, versus, those groups that are getting the coronavirus? Is that correct, Charlie?
I'm saying, no, somebody, the DNA from the African and the DNA from the Caucasian. Has anybody looked at how the DNA reacts towards the viruses that have tried to attack the African culture and didn't succeed towards the European culture? And just like now, the highest rate is in the European culture and not the African culture.
Right. So yeah, the Ebola virus. So like I said, viruses belong to different families, right? Ebola virus belongs to the Filoviridae family. That's what Ebola virus belongs to. This is coronavirus family, all right? So they are all viruses, but they belong to different. They have different characteristics. I don't want to go into. Can you hear me? I don't want to go into the in-depth of the characteristics, the envelope, the surface proteins, the RNA or the DNA viruses and the rest, but just know that the Ebola virus is a different family altogether. The coronavirus is a different family, but they're all viruses.
But he was also talking about the relationship between Africans not getting it and those who are getting it. Has anybody looked at the differences in the DNA versus Europeans versus, Asians and Italians and, Koreans, South Koreans that are getting it?
All right. We remember that this virus is just a couple of months old, just 3 months. It came out in November, December, January, February, March. Okay, about 5 months old. So we're still struggling to contain the virus while there's very limited research going on. So for somebody to actually pick up the COVID-19 particle and actually look at the relationship between viruses, between this DNA or various ethnic group DNAs, the person must be an avid researcher. And we have very few avid researchers like that. Right now, the world is focusing on limiting the spread, limiting the treating the infected people, and making sure that it does not go to new places. That's the focus right now. The data that are coming out are actually coming out from China, Europe, and we are in America. We're beginning to develop our own database, right? So, has somebody actually looked at why it's? I haven't come across any literature that compares the rate of spread in Black people and the rate of spread in Africa and China. Remember the peculiar times we're like in a pandemonium. It's like a pandemic. It's like everybody's panicking, in panic mode. Those data will begin to come out eventually as time goes on. We'll begin to see the pattern of spread, and we'll begin to propose theories. Like this theory that this person said, now, it's a very beautiful idea. Someone could take it up as a research thesis and say, hey, why is it not prevalent in Africa? Could it be a genetic thing? Then we'll extract the genetic components and we'll begin to analyze them and run the codes and see what is what. I haven't come across any literature. So.
And doctor, in our community for a while, folks thought that, blacks couldn't get the coronavirus, and then all kinds of athletes and folks started coming up, with the coronavirus. Right. So there was this misconception that, that the black community was kind of immune, or exempt from the coronavirus.
Right, that was a misconception initially, but I think people are beginning to understand that the coronavirus doesn't respect race, age, or religion, or whatever you come from. It touches anybody. The Muslims were forced to close down visit to Mecca. The Catholics closed down Easter celebration. A lot of masses are shutting down. Churches are closing down. People, it's affecting everybody. Presidents of countries are getting it. It does not respect poverty line or no poverty line. Right now, that's the pattern that we see so far. With time, we'll now begin to recategorize it and say, hey, it could be some very few black people. It could be isolated cases. Right now, we don't know.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Queen, can you close up the show?
Yes, but okay, before we close, because we are very close to getting out of the air now, we discovered that we don't have sanitizers, no hand wash anymore in the stores. What other preventive measures can we take? Because people are scared. When you don't have sanitizer to sanitize your hand, you don't have supplies, so what can we do? In 1 minute, Doctor.
So if you've been hearing the panel talk about flattening the curve and not flattening the curve, it's important to explain what that means. They noticed that people that were clustering, the disease was more where people clustered together, where people were not practicing this basic hygiene, right? So they decided to say, hey, probably if we spread ourselves apart, we could reduce the rate of transmission and flatten the curve. What I mean by the number of people that have the diseases, that's flatten the curve. Okay, so now that we have some countries in Africa are beginning to experience this shortage of these hand sanitizers, I think they should begin to practice stay away from the crowd. Do the 6 feet thing. 6 feet is take your 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what 6 feet means. 6 steps away from your neighbor. Wash your hands with your soap. Now, it's actually been shown that hand washing is even better than hand sanitizers, right? Correct. Because hand washing, like soap, washes the particle away. and make sure that it doesn't stick, right?
At least 20 seconds.
You don't have,
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a lot to say about it. There's a lot.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Thank you for being our guest today. We're still going to bring you in because we need to know why and how you guys become doctors in your family. We're going to talk about it. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Charles. Before we get out of the phone, the time is far gone.
Yes. This is Charles again. Everybody, please be safe. I know there's a lot of people panicking, but we can control that. Let's not panic. But it's a serious issue here. It's a serious case. Just be safe. Follow the guidelines. If you don't know what to do, please call. Okay? Until Saturday next week. Goodbye, folks.
Mr. Tunde.
Well, it's been an interesting and educative show. Thank you, Doctor, for coming on the show. Welcome back, Mr. Adodo, and everybody be safe. We do the best we can to put the numbers down, flatten the curve. You all have a good week.
And the chief host himself, Mr. Adodo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Eddie, for coming to spread some light into this deadly disease that is ravaging the whole world. For my brothers and sisters in Africa, please try as much as possible to adhere strictly to what the doctor has said. Don't be a superman. Don't be a superman. Protect yourself. God bless you.
Thank you.
This is the David Adodo Show on African Voices Radio.
And
Doctor, you may want to close
welcome
off,
back,
please.
Doctor. Welcome back, David, by the way, too. We thought for a minute you was going to get stuck over in Nigeria.
We're not going to stop.
Am I saying something that's crazy?
He hasn't been showing around.
Okay.
We're happy. Yeah.
Doctor, can you tell us more about yourself?
So it's a Christian station, and I would like to bring in the Christian perspective. God is still in the business of answering prayers. God reveals all these little things I'm saying to scientists. God is the one that makes people to think, and the solution is going to come. So we just keep praying and also adhering to the guidelines as much as possible. God, He said it in Psalm 91, I'll cover you with my wings, and you'll find protections under my wings. The pestilence will come by noonlight, but they will not touch you. They've already said it in the Bible. These things will come, but they're not going to afflict you. So just do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Jesse, can you play the last music for us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And Doctor, you'll be back next week. Okay?
Everybody.
Thank you so much. Keep safe, everyone out there.
You too. Be safe.
Right.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See you next week.
You're listening to African Voices Radio.
HD2 Baltimore.
The all-new Praise 106.1, giving our city just what we need right now. Baltimore's inspiration station. Praise 106.1.
From the Big Al Studio, Baltimore's #1 accident attorney, Hey, Praise family, are you searching for a church to call home where you can find family, discover purpose, and change the world? Well, we'd like to invite you to visit us at All Nations Worship Assembly, Baltimore, also known as The Well, at 4805 Nelson Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21217, where the pastors are Apostle Yolanda and Pastor Corey Stiff. Join us every Sunday for 2 services, 9:30 a.m. and 11:59 a.m., where you will experience passionate worship, a challenging and invigorating sermon, and an unforgettable encounter with God in a family atmosphere. Help us support our Apostle Yolanda Stiff and stream her new single, I See a River, now available on all digital outlets. This amazing ballad will be featured on her forthcoming album. Please visit our website at www.anwabaltimore.com to learn more about our ministry and stay in the know about what's happening here at All Nations Worship Assembly, Baltimore. You can also follow us on social media by searching All Nations Worship Assembly, Baltimore. We welcome you with open arms. There's a place for you.
It may not be stomach issues.
For me, it's intense gas, or pain, or diarrhea, sometimes all at once, over and over.
I spent years with the symptoms, but could never figure it out.
No matter what I did, they never went away. So I decided to break it down for my doctor and get really specific about my symptoms.
We discovered that exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, may be the reason for my stomach issues.
EPI is caused by my pancreas. It leads to diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools. The symptoms just don't go away.
But EPI can show up with even one symptom.
The good news? EPI is manageable.
But to get to the right diagnosis, you have to break it down for your doctor and get specific about the severity of your symptoms.
Visit identifyepi.com to learn more and use the symptom checker to help change the conversation with your doctor. Brought to you by AbbVie.
Do you have a relationship? Because